This is part 2, where we're going to carry on reciting with the ayah number 20, which is talking in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is talking about the second example of the hypocrites. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير. Right, let's go through this. يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم. يكاد literally means almost. It's usually followed by a noun and then a verb. يكاد البرق, the lightning almost, يخطف, to snatch. And remember what snatch means, to take something away quickly. The lightning almost snatches أبصارهم, their sight. Why does it almost snatch their sight away? Well, after the lightning, their eyesight is weaker. And just if you were in these 3 layers of darkness and suddenly you have a bright flash of lightning, the moment the lightning ends, the perception of darkness is much greater. In other words, sometimes these people, the lightning, remember, represents Islam. They follow Islam and suddenly they stop following Islam and they become extremely confused. They're not too sure whether to carry on following Islam or not. كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُمْ مَشَوْا فِيهِ. Every time it lights the way for them, they walk therein. كُلَّمَا, every time. أَضَاءَ, to light up. لَهُمْ, for them. مَشَوْا, to walk. فِيهِ, they walk therein. So every time the lightning strikes and there's light, then these people are sometimes following Islam and sometimes not following Islam. They tend to follow Islam when it's easy for them to follow Islam, or there is some advantage to them. And what do they do at that moment? They are walking. In other words, the example here, the parable given, is that they are walking on the path. So when the rules of Islam are in their favor, they follow them. For example, they may get money, so they are eligible for zakat, they feel safe amongst the Muslims, and they have social acceptance, etc. What impression does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paint by giving the parable of somebody walking when the lightning is that their obedience, even when they are following Islam, is minimal. They are not running or trying to achieve a lot, they're just getting on. And what happens to them when the light is gone? وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. And when أَظْلَمَ, it becomes dark, i.e. darkness comes over them. عَلَيْهِمْ, over them. قَامُوا, they stand still. Why do they stand still? Because they're confused. They're caught in the middle. They are neither disbelievers nor are they Muslims. They are not clearly in Islam and they're not clearly disbelievers. And they don't actually know what to do. They don't have a clear stance to take. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now giving the conclusion. وَلَوْ شَاءَ, if He had willed. Who? Allah. If Allah had willed. لَذَهَبَ, He definitely would have taken بِسَمْعِهِمْ, their hearing, وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ, and their sight. He would have taken this away from them. So remember in the first example, those people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them as سُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ, that they were deaf, dumb and blind. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing out that these people have not become, Allah has not made them deaf and blind to Islam. They can still hear Islam and sometimes they understand it. They can still see the nur of Islam, and they're still in that point where they may completely enter into Islam, or they may carry on in their halfway house. But they still have the chance of being guided. So this is why the question is, why are their senses preserved? Because they sometimes follow Islam and God is giving them time to repent, i.e. to embrace Islam fully. What lesson do we get about cause and effect from this ayah? Well, lightning and thunder, the degree of lightning and thunder painted in this parable is enough to blind and make somebody deaf. But they do not. And the reason they do not is because Allah has not willed it. So this points out that whenever there is a cause, the effect cannot happen unless Allah's will allows that to happen. So if you drink water, even something very simple, it will not quench your thirst unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed it to happen, then only will it occur. This is something we should remember all the time. And that's where the statement La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah comes from. That La hawla, there is no power, no movement, wa la quwwa, and no power. There's no movement away from something bad, or no ability to get something good, illa billah, except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it's something small or whether it's something large in our lives. And the ayah concludes, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Indeed, inna Allah, Allah, ala kulli shay'in, over everything, qadir. He is translated by Sahih International as competent. I don't like that translation because competent gives the idea that you've just reached a minimum level. No, that's not what the word qadir means. Qadir means one who can do what he wants. Fa'alum lima yurid. He does what he wants. There's no limitation to his ability to do what he wants. And of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only does things that he wants, which are wise, because he is the wise, Al-Hakim. So with this we come to the end of this part 2. So I'll just summarize again from the ayah here. يَكَادُ الْبَرْقُ يَخْطَفُ أَبْصَارَهُم. So the lightning may snatch away their eyesight. It's so bright. كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُم مَشَوْا فِيهِ. كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُم مَشَوْا فِيهِ. Whenever it lights up their surrounding, they travel. In other words, sometimes when they see Islam, they see it's going, it's easy to follow, the rules are beneficial to them, they follow Islam. وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. But then suddenly when the things get tough, they have no iman inside them to keep powering them on, so they suddenly stop and the darkness envelops them again. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَبِصَارِهِمْ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He would have taken away their hearing and their eyesight completely. And of course, if you're on a ground where lightning is striking, every time the lightning strikes, these people do that, then they stop. Then the lightning strikes again, the iman comes back in their hearts, and they carry on again, then they stop again because of their doubt. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken away their hearing and eyesight, they would not have benefited at all, like the first group of hypocrites. Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the capability and ability to do whatever over everything. So there's nothing that can limit His ability. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand the ayat of the Quran, to reflect upon ourselves in our own hearts, in our own lives, and look at ourselves. Number one, do we have any of these qualities of the hypocrites? Because now this whole topic of hypocrites is coming to an end here with this ayah. And if we see this, then hypocrisy is a disease, and every disease has a cure. And if we turn to the Quran, we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and repent to Him sincerely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cure this disease from our hearts. But the first step to asking for a cure for a disease is the diagnosis of the disease. You must know you have the disease. And that's why these ayat are there, for us to reflect on our own lives and see, do we have any of these qualities inside our own hearts? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us recognize any defects that we have. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a strength in this month of Ramadan to overcome these defects and to become better people. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.